to my PlayStation audience, if you wish to buy a PS5 Pro, no one is stopping you. Do you understand? However, the conversation is continuing on a different level or a different layer. Let me go ahead and put some context to it. When the Pro was first announced, there were people who are PlayStation-centric YouTubers, Twitterers, and whatever that came out with claims that the PlayStation 5 Pro was going to perform similarly to specific PC hardware. I would mention names, but I'm certain that everybody by now knows some of these folk. When those people made those claims, they were simply told, you are going to eat crow, there will be egg on your face, and you're going to look like you are quite ignorant about PC gaming and how hardware works. Many of them fought tooth and nail, they gaslit, and I think they've programmed even some PlayStation fans to think that they are being attacked for actually buying the PS5 Pro. One example is, I actually made a video. I pointed out Digital Foundry's own conversations about the PS5 Pro CPU limitations, and somebody replied and said, most games are GPU limited, not CPU. The video we were talking about CPU bound situations, but somehow they've decided to, push that part aside, so your arguments are moot. Here's the thing. A lot of the games that are made by a lot of developers are open world games because the AAA space just has that as its competitive niche for now. So when a game comes out and the game requires a lot of heavy CPU tasks, the PlayStation 5 Pro is probably not going to be able to push or bump you too far ahead. Some games like Gotham Knights, unless they do serious optimizations on them, because you can get them to run on the base PS5 at that frame rate, but you'd have to make concessions. Because again, sure, you may not be able to get, as high frame rates as the PS5 Pro after optimizations, but the CPU is a really, it's a significant piece. And then they asked this question and said, why are you PC people so obsessed with the PS5 Pro? I simply can't understand. No one is obsessed with the PS5 Pro. We are continuing the conversation to ensure that those who made those claims are pointed out as frauds, are pointed out as scammers, are pointed out as having taken a stance, which I will call moronic. And the reason I call it moronic is not to belittle anybody, but it's to point out that a lot of these people pretty much skipped out on what it means to understand hardware. They skipped out on the scientific enterprise of hardware testing and analysis. They skipped a lot of the data that we had available about different games and their performance based on different GPU settings and CPU settings, and made the claim that this thing was going to play like a 4070. So we need to ensure that when we're pointing out these things and talking about the price to performance ratio and all of the above, that we point them out. It's not an attack against you. Calm down. You're not the first to buy a freaking console that got a freaking upgrade in a GPU. Like, relax. Like, if you really do think that people are so impressed about this particular console of yours, then man, you must be under a rock. Stop it. Like, it's so aggravating to see some of my PlayStation fellow fans behave like this and say some crazy stuff. Don't do it. Like, think about how far back in the hardware generation the PlayStation 5, new PlayStation 5 Pro, look how far back in the AMD generation it is. Like, if you think about that, then there's no way anybody can seriously take you to say that they are threatened by it. I mean, did you see the CPU that just came out for the PC and the one they just stealth dropped that AMD did? AMD is literally cannibalizing the PlayStation 5 in real time. Like, the PS5 Pro drops, they drop the 9800X3D, and then they drop a 7600X3D, just a stealth, CPU. I think they may have dropped it before the PS5 Pro came out, just so that they can pretty much say, well, let's just drive down prices of already wonderful CPUs, so that our people who may be thinking, oh, maybe they got an upgrade on the PS5 Pro, can just laugh at it. We're not obsessed. The PC side is the innovation side. The console side is basically the follower in terms of hardware. So don't misconstrue nor take that into any kind of, or don't confuse the situation, or don't try to gaslight. Just either engage in the conversation with an honest outlook, or close the videos. Like, the conversation is not for you. You're here to actually enjoy your PS5 Pro, and we would love for you to enjoy it. Then they said this: Console people will never join your cult. Live with it. My dude, you are playing on an AMD based device that Sony locked and gave you. You're playing on a low end PC at this point in the generation. You don't even know that you are literally running straight into the arms of the thing that you think that you are rebelling against. It is so weird that when you say this stuff, a lot of people just look and go like, what? Think about it. When Austin Evans is doing like a teardown, he's a PC based YouTuber and also a tech YouTuber as well in many cases, many regards. He builds PCs. I followed his PC video, but he'll do teardowns of, the consoles. Listen to the way he actually addresses and points out different components within them. You will see the PC side of your console much clearer in that sense. Listen to Linus Tech. Get out of your bubble. This bubble talk is so weird that right now, even Sean Layden tells you guys, and I got to find that article. I don't know if I can find it. It doesn't matter. Sean Layden, the former boss of PlayStation, said that the teraflop war was over and that AMD won the console war. How did he come about a hardware manufacturer winning the console war? AMD has been eating on all sides. They've been eating from both console manufacturers. They're going to eat for the next console manufactured generation of consoles. And also within the PC side on the CPU area, they're balling. There's almost no serious PC gamer right now that I know that hasn't either contemplated, an AMD device. In fact, the other day we were talking about, I said, the 9800X3D, I can't find any online because everyone is actually, it's sold out. It's sold out really fast, super fast, right? And somebody was like, hey, man, in my micro center, there's like 16 of them left. I looked around different micro centers around the country, and I did find a micro center that had about 16 or 17. But I can't make my way to that micro center. That micro center is hours and hours and hours away from my home. But that's how good the products they're selling are. The PS5 Pro, if it was that great, it has sold out too. Still sitting in stores. I mean, I'm just saying, for you to say that, you must have had to leap past a lot of reality to come to that conclusion. No one is against you, but you position yourself to be antagonistic against everybody else. Are our ears that soft now that we can't even take, or listen to, constructive criticism? Is this now a problem where everybody just wants to live in their own little bubble, or there's now a post-truth world acceptance that we can't tell the truth about hardware limitations that the PS5 Pro faces compared to a PC? Like, this is the truth. It doesn't matter whether or not you feel one way or the other. The truth doesn't care about how you feel. It just is a material fact that's sitting there. Not saying that you shouldn't have feelings. It just is what it is. And because of how scientific hardware is, this continues to throw a lot of people for a loop. And it comes down to the price to performance ratio. Look at me trying to open that Micro Center, page here. And the price to performance is not impressive. Like, there's no world where anybody will tell you, we'll take your disk drive away and give you 1 terabyte of memory, and that's a good thing. Somebody said something. In another person said something as well in relation to that. They said, well, you don't take into consideration that the PlayStation 5 Pro has an extra, 1 terabyte memory. I didn't bother to do that part because I'm just focusing on, pretty much the performance. But if we did that, you have lost your disk drive with the PS5 Pro. How do we factor that in? I had to ask somebody that was actually basically hounding me and saying, well, you're talking about the performance. They were talking about this in the comment section and such. And I was like, well, if we had to actually factor in this whole thing that you're, getting a hernia over, right? How do we factor in the hard drive? Like, how do we factor that in? Look at the comments right here. The person was saying it to me like, this is some kind of a big deal. And I was like, well, are we not really considering the things that we're saying? Look at it. The person said to me, they said, your video is about why the PS5 Pro is not worth the price. I never said that. I said it's not worth the price to performance. I if I didn't say that in this video, maybe that's my bad, but that's what I've been talking about. And then they're talking about where there are other factors such as storage that you also have to factor into the equation. I didn't factor storage because on PC you can get different kinds of storage medium. But if we did factor storage in, the extra 1 terabyte memory that's been added to your PlayStation 5 Pro may have come at the cost of your disk drive not being there. So again, we need to just ignore that as a factor for now, because it just continues to seem like it's a negative when you actually point it out. You know, this console is seriously a big cash grab. Again, I have to be honest, that's my opinion in this regard. Now, if you want one, by all means, no one is saying you're doing anything wrong. You are on the PS5 ecosystem. It is the hand you've been dealt. That's what it is. On PC, we just happen to have options. So even if AMD deals one hand, NVIDIA might deal a better hand. If NVIDIA deals one hand, AMD might deal a better hand. Or if it's in CPU, Intel or AMD, because of that competition, one or the other might deal a better hand. And if both hands suck, buy the old stuff, or we just ignore it. That's how we actually play this particular game on the PC side for the most part. I digress. I'll get out of your hair. I'm a little tired about all this fandom, man. It's almost blind at this point. I don't think you can actually talk as objectively as you can about anything without having these kinds of things. This doesn't mean I'm not going to talk about stuff, but I'm just pointing out that this is just kind of tiring at the end of the day. Peace out.